Hello, everyone. I'm Adriana, the Co-Executive Director and Program Manager of Child, Youth, and Family Programs at About Face. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar from the Youth Advisory Council on self-care tips for children and youth. Before we begin, we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. Each of us is joining the webinar today from a different location and therefore a different Indigenous land. I wish to acknowledge the land on which About Face is headquartered is in the city of Toronto. This land is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We hope that after our session today, you'll take a moment to learn more about the land that you occupy. If you've never been on a Zoom webinar before, we'll explain a couple things just to go over housekeeping. Only the panelists and hosts will be visible on the screen. You as the participants or attendees will not have video access, but can participate using the chat box or the Q&A box below. The chat will be used for you to participate throughout the webinar, and questions can possibly get lost throughout the chat, so we encourage you to use the Q&A section. We'll do our best to answer your questions, however, we may be limited with time. One last thing to note before we start is that we cannot provide any specific advice or counseling on the topic. If you have any questions that maybe consider this, we would ask that you direct those to your healthcare team. The YAC today will be discussing the resource that they created, Self-Care Tips for Children and Youth. They created one of two resources. Today's topic will be focusing on that one. And the YAC members are going to share their insight on the creation of this resource, as well as their responses to some of the questions that were provided in advance. With that, I'm going to pass this off to Colleen, who will get us started on the webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. I'm very excited to have members of the YAC here to join us and use their own personal experience. It was really great to see all the work that went into this resource. So we'll start with quick introductions. So we'll do our names, pronouns, how we're connected to About Face, and whereabouts in Canada we're located. So my name is Colleen Wheatley. My pronouns are she, her, and I am part of the About Face team. I'm a clinical social worker, and I've actually been involved with About Face as a volunteer and a staff in various capacities for about 3 decades, which has been wonderful. I myself have hemangioma, so that has informed my experience, as well as just hearing from lots of different community members as well. I'll pass it over to Samantha to introduce herself now.
All right. My name's Samantha. I go by she, her as well. And I have a cleft lip palate, and I've been involved with the About Face for since I've been born. And I'm calling from Woodstock and New Brunswick.
Thanks so much, Samantha. Now we'll pass it over to Alexis.
Hello, my name is Alexis. My pronouns are also she, her, and I'm calling from Canada in St. John's. And I don't know how many years I've been on the YAC, but I think it has been more than 2 years. That's all I know.
Awesome, thanks so much. And so now we're just going to talk a little bit about how the resource came to be, and then go through some of Samantha and Alexis's own personal strategies that they use as well. So we're going to talk about what does self-care mean, and why do we think that it matters? So can I start off by asking you to answer some of these questions, Alexis, and then we'll hear from Samantha.
To me, self-care is when you actually take care of yourself, and when you actually have the time to think and just get your anxiety and all this stuff under control. And it matters because if you don't take care of yourself, then bad things can happen, and we don't really want the bad things to happen. So you at least take 5 deep breaths, or I don't know, do something that you like, or help you calm down, and it all those things can help. And that's why it really matters, because you want to love yourself, you want to take care of yourself to like you want to feel yourself. So that's why it really matters to like take care of yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexis. I think you covered so many great points there. All right, Samantha, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So self-care to me is kind of like a plant. If you don't take care of that plant, it will eventually suffer. It's the same thing with self-care, your emotional, like your feelings. If you don't take care of yourself, your like feelings and your emotional stability will start to suffer. You won't feel good. You'll start to be sick. And yeah,
I think you both did a really great job. You've covered a lot of important things. I think that self-care can be a small little thing that we can practice. Alexis gave some examples of taking some deep breaths, things that we can do that other people around us might not even notice. And what I also like, I think Samantha mentioned, is it's work. You talked to, like it can take work. And it's something that actually came about specifically when there were communities, Black women realized that the medical model, so like doctors and everything, weren't always meeting all of their needs. So they needed to start practicing taking care of themselves. So taking care of yourself is sometimes even a little bit radical, but also that's a way that we take care of other people. And that's a way that we contribute to the worlds around us. Sometimes it's kind of seen as being like a little selfish, but as mentioned by both our panelists, it's also a way that's a way that we're taking care of ourselves, and that's how we can take care of other people. So thank you so much for your input. Now we're going to go into the resource. You'll see some samples in the next slide. So I'll have Samantha read the beginning and Alexis read the lower part.
all right. Going through medical appointments and procedures can begin to take its toll. They might feel tiring, boring, or draining. It is important to do things that make you feel good and bring joy to balance out some of the more difficult thoughts and feelings.
About Face Youth Advisory Council created a list of self-care tips that they used before, during and after medical appointments and procedures.
Great. So it was really great to see community members come together and say, this is something that we think we need, because sometimes things just get hard and we need to do a little bit of extra work. So here are some examples, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to share some of their own examples that they practice to take care of themselves, just in general, or when we have surgeries or lots of medical appointments. So Samantha, can I ask you first?
So, to help me calm down, I normally have a stuffed animal that would like help me feel better. And I also like to take a sketchbook with me and just like draw. This helps my mind. It like helps me take away from the fact that I'm having surgery or going to the IWK or anywhere really. But it's also important to trust your doctors that they will do their job. Because if you don't, then you're going to end up being scared that they're going to do something wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And also talking about that relationship, that sometimes we might need to ask some questions to help ourselves feel better. And that's part of self-care. All right, Alexis, can I ask for some of your ideas and strategies?
So personally, before I have my surgery, I always like think of something that I look forward to. Because when I used to go to surgeries, my classmates used to make like these little cards and they say, get better soon, have fun during your surgery. And after my surgery, they always FaceTime me and it was really fun and special. And I really looked forward that and I looked forward to my family coming over and seeing me, and it just made me so happy. And also, and sometimes I like walking. I really love walking around because like I always pretended like my IV was my little pet because I never had a pet when I was younger. So I always pretended it was like a little pet and I just walked around and it really made me happy. So that's usually what I do after my surgeries. But before, I don't know, I just usually just hang out with my mom and dad and that just made me calm down. So that's usually what I really do.
Great. What I really liked about those examples are that you kind of took the things that you enjoy, because surgery can, we know, right? Surgery can be hard. Have any of us found surgery and recovery? It can be hard. It can still be worthwhile, but it can still be hard, like lots of other things in life. And what I like is Alexis kind of identified some of the things that are neat. And I love it where, like, yes, dragging an IV pole around for a walk can be kind of hard and it can take a little bit of practice, but also it can be something that we can make fun, right? And having all of those visits, those cards from other people, I think are really great examples too of how other people can help us practice those self-care, and how other people, I know when I had surgery, it was always really helpful to have sometimes I had to like pay attention to how my body was doing. But I really liked having some visitors and all those sorts of things. Now, we still have a bit of time because our panelists are so great and efficient. So I thought what we could do is maybe just highlight maybe some of our favorites that we put on the resource, which can be found on the About Face website. And so maybe Samantha, would you be able to pick one or two things that you really like? And then we'll go back to Alexis. I see we've covered quite a few things on this slide already, which is great.
Well, I do like to go shopping. I do like to do that, so I think go shopping is a good one as well. And I have like a cat. Like this is normally like when I get home, but I like to spend time with my cat, as you can see in the background.
Yeah, for sure. And can I ask, do any of us have to travel to like a different city to go have surgery? When I was a kid, I know. So that's where the shopping thing can be kind of special, because it means that when I was going to see my doctor, I wasn't just going to see my doctor, I was also going to like the world's biggest bookstore at the time, those sorts of things. So it adds in those trips.
Can I add something too? Normally, when I have to go to another city or another province, so I get to go in like a hotel, and that also suits me. So,
Absolutely, right? Kind of recognizing those other things where our appointments at the hospital can also, we can make those trips fun, I guess is what I'm hearing.
yeah,
Yeah. Thanks so much, Samantha.
small little things.
Exactly.
Guess I wouldn't say it's small though.
Well, but sometimes there are those little things, right? Like, I think, going for a walk is this little thing, but Alexis making it a little bit more fun is a small little thing that just makes it a little bit better. All right, Alexis, do you want to highlight maybe one or two more strategies that you like from this resource? And I'll show the other slide as well if you need a refresher.
I just wanted to say something real quick about traveling to a different city to get surgeries. One of the things that I really love, I get to go on a plane and I get to miss like 2 weeks of school. And that was always my favorite thing because I didn't really love school at the time. So I just missed a lot of school and it was so fun. But anywho, back to the thing, strategies. Can you maybe like go on the other page for one second? Thank you. So me and my family, we loved playing cards, and my favorite game was Crazy Eights. So we used to always play it for like an hour or two, and it was really fun. And of course, I always win. Actually, maybe not always, but most of the times. And um, I didn't really play on my phone because I didn't have a phone, but I usually played on the TV and watched TV or like play on my iPad because I had like these really fun games and all that stuff.
Yeah, so sometimes it's that we get to do things that we don't get to do the rest of the time, right? So that all of this can just be a little bit different. And like Alexis said, it can be, sometimes it is a bonus to take a bit of time to travel and go on these trips. But yeah, being away from home can be a bit tricky and scary. So might as well enjoy it as much as we can. All right, I think we've covered. Is there any last minute thoughts that either of the panelists would like to add? And then I think we're open for some quick questions before we wrap up. All right, I'll go to Adriana to see if there are any questions. Go ahead.
There are currently no questions in the Q&A, but in the chat box, if there's any comments or questions that anyone would like to add who has attended live, please do so. Other than that, we'd like to thank our panelists, Samantha and Alexis, for joining us today, and Colleen for hosting the webinar. Your shared insight and personal experience have made a great impact on the webinar, and we know it'll be a great resource for those who access it afterwards. We'll give it a few more moments.
And thanks so much to our panelists. It's always really great to hear real life experience and to hear from people who are going through this. And it's really great because you were part of a team that created this resource, right? With the YAC, or the Youth Advisory Committee.
Well, thank you for having me on this webinar. It was really fun and I really liked it.
Excellent. Sounds like we might have to do it again.
Yeah,
We will.
like Alexa said, thank you for having me here.
And
You're
we hope
both
that
very welcome.
And we hope that this resource can be shared with others and be something that can be useful, and people can go to the About Face website, and you can see that we actually have a whole bunch of different resources that can be shared with individuals of all ages, teachers, other professionals. And if there are other things, let us know.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Join us for part 2 on December 2nd, or December 9th, my apologies, where the Youth Advisory Council will be going over their second resource that they came out with this year, answering questions about facial differences. So we hope that you'll be able to attend. More information can be found on our website. This webinar has been recorded, so it'll be available on our YouTube channel at a later date. Thank you again to everyone who attended live, and again to our panelists and Colleen. Thank you, everyone.